On the evening of October 20th, 2025, a 17-year-old named Taki Allen was sitting outside his high school in Baltimore. Football practice had just ended. He had a bag of chips in his pocket. An AI-enhanced security camera looked at him and it decided the crumpled Doritos bag was a gun. What happened next didn't involve a second look. Within moments, police cars pulled up. Officers got out with their weapons drawn. A teenager was forced to his knees and handcuffed while they searched him. They found chips. Just chips. Here's the thing nobody told Taki Allen that night. The camera never claimed to be sure. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't see a gun and know it's a gun. It looks at a shape, runs the numbers, and produces a probability. A guess dressed up as an answer. The machine didn't lie. It did exactly what it was built to do. The failure came after, when a human being treated a guess as a fact and drew a weapon on a kid eating snacks. This is the story of what happens when we let software stand in for an investigation, and once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Let's talk about Angela Lips. Angela is a 50-year-old grandmother from Tennessee. In July of 2025, U.S. Marshals arrested her at gunpoint while she was babysitting 4 young children. She was booked as a fugitive, held without bail. The crime? Bank fraud in Fargo, North Dakota, a state she had never been to. A state she couldn't have reached because she had never once been on an airplane in her life. A facial recognition system had connected her face to a suspect. That was the evidence. That was all of it. She sat in a county jail. Not for a day, not for a week, for more than 5 months. It was only after she was finally extradited to Fargo that a court-appointed attorney did the one thing the algorithm couldn't: actual work. He pulled her bank records, and her own purchases, made back home in Tennessee, placed her hundreds of miles away during every single fraud incident the software had pinned on her. 5 months of a grandmother's life, erased, because a computer said her face matched, and nobody checked before the handcuffs went on. Now, you might want to believe these are freak accidents, rare glitches, the unlucky few. I understand the impulse. It's more comfortable than the alternative, but the alternative is what the evidence actually shows. In June of 2026, a man named Robert Dillon filed a federal lawsuit in Florida. A facial recognition tool had flagged him as a man who tried to lure a child at a beachside restaurant. Dillon was 52 years old. He lived more than 300 miles away. He had never set foot in the town where it happened. The algorithm didn't care about any of that, because the algorithm doesn't know what 300 miles away means. It knows pixels. By early 2026, journalists and civil liberties groups had counted at least 13 criminal cases dismissed across the country after facial recognition matched the wrong person. 13 that we know about. 13 where someone was arrested, booked, and processed before anyone confirmed the machine had gotten it right. And there's a detail in that list that you need to sit with, because it isn't an accident either. Nearly every confirmed victim is black. That's not a coincidence, and it's not a matter of opinion. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, a federal agency, not an activist group, tested 189 of these algorithms. What they found is that accuracy is not evenly distributed. These systems misidentify some faces far more often than others, and the errors fall hardest along lines of race. So the tool doesn't just make mistakes, it makes them unequally. It builds the bias in, and then it launders that bias through a screen that looks neutral and scientific. So why does this keep happening? If everyone knows the technology is fallible, why do the arrests keep coming? Because of a quiet lie built into how these tools get used. A facial recognition match is supposed to be a lead, a starting point, maybe look into this person. It was never meant to be proof, but somewhere between the software and the squad car, maybe becomes definitely. The guess hardens into certainty, and in some cases it's worse than sloppy. In one Maryland case, police relied on a false facial recognition result to jail a woman for 6 months, and then concealed from the court that the technology had been involved at all when they applied for the arrest warrant. Think about what that means. The one piece of information that would let a judge weigh how shaky the evidence was. Hidden. The machine's guest walked into court wearing the costume of a human investigation, and here's where it gets bigger than any single camera or any single arrest. Because what you're seeing on the street is the surface of something much larger underneath. There's a company called Clearview AI. It built its business by scraping billions of images of faces off the open internet, your social media, your photos, images you never agreed to hand over, and turning them into a searchable database. By 2026, that database was being used by thousands of law enforcement agencies. The FBI, the Secret Service. In February of 2026, Customs and Border Protection signed a contract for access. Immigration enforcement has spent millions on the same kind of technology. Then there's Palantir, a company that brings military-grade data analysis into everyday policing, systems that don't just identify a face, but stitch together where you've been, who you know, and what you might do next. Predictive tools, software that treats your future like a problem to be solved in advance. Layer on top of that the license plate readers, over 100,000 cameras logging where cars go, and the social media monitoring and the audio detection, and what you get isn't a set of separate tools. It's a single, always-on pipeline, a system that watches by default and asks questions later, if it asks at all. And I want to show you exactly how untrustworthy the output of that pipeline can be, with one story that would be funny if it weren't terrifying. A police department in Utah started using an AI tool to write officers' reports automatically by listening to audio and generating the text. In one report, the software claimed an officer had shape-shifted into a frog. It wrote that into an official police document, a legal record, as fact. Why? Because it had picked up the audio of a Disney movie playing in the background and woven it into the report without knowing the difference between reality and a cartoon. Sit with that. The same category of technology we're trusting to identify criminals, to write the official record, cannot reliably tell the difference between a real event and a children's film. And when it invents something, it does so with total confidence, in flat professional language that reads exactly like the truth. For most of human history, a photograph or a video felt like proof. Seeing was believing. That era is over. In 2026, a face match, a video clip, an AI-generated report, none of these are self-proving anymore. Each one is a claim that has to be checked by a person before it means anything. And the whole appeal of these systems, the entire sales pitch, is that they let you skip that step. Speed, scale, fewer humans in the loop. Now, to be fair, the people deploying this technology are not cartoon villains, and their argument deserves a real hearing. Their case is this. A threat missed is a life lost. If a system can flag a real danger earlier, a real suspect, a real weapon, then acting on an imperfect signal is better than waiting for perfect certainty that never comes. Every early intervention that works is one they can point to, and there's a genuine trade-off buried in there. A real dial that has to be set somewhere, but here's what that argument leaves out. When you turn the sensitivity up so the system catches more real threats, you don't just catch more real threats, you catch more Taki Allens, more Angela Lips, more Robert Dylans. Lowering the threshold to miss fewer of the guilty means sweeping up more of the innocent, and the people swept up are not distributed randomly. They fall along the same old lines they always have. The uncomfortable truth is that the technology raced ahead and the rules stayed behind. There is still, in most places, no requirement that police tell you an AI was involved in your arrest. No requirement that a human independently verify the match before you're in cuffs. No routine independent auditing of whether these tools actually work. The safeguards experts keep asking for mandatory disclosure, mandatory human confirmation, real oversight, are still mostly proposals, not law. Some cities and states have started banning or restricting the technology. Some lawmakers have introduced bills to rein in its use by federal agencies, but it is a patchwork, and the machines are being installed faster than the rules to govern them. So where does that leave you? It leaves you understanding something most people don't. The danger here was never that the machine is evil, The machine is just a probability engine doing math on pixels. The danger is that the humans around it stopped asking questions, that they saw a screen say, match, and stopped thinking. The guess became the verdict. The lead became the proof, and a chip bag became a gun. The most powerful thing you can do is refuse to hand your own judgment to a machine that was never built to carry it, and to expect the same from the systems making decisions about your life. When someone tells you the camera saw it, or the software confirmed it, or the algorithm matched it, remember Taki Allen on his knees in a parking lot, remember the frog, and ask the question the machine can't. Are you sure? Stay off-grid.